So, Assalamu alaikum. I hope you all are doing well. Today, basically, the topic of discussion is from the book Emerging Issues. And basically, the title of the book is Economic Management and Emerging Issues in Pakistan. The author of this book is Professor Dr. Muhammad Aslam Chaudhry, and Dr. Reba Aslam, has contributed a number of chapters in this book. So let's just begin with our analysis and let's see that what we have for you today. This chapter 9 is all about manpower and employment. We will be discussing on the unemployment issues and the underemployment. So the chapter 9 basically examines the manpower, employment, unemployment, and underemployment in Pakistan. We will now enter with this chapter, part three of the textbook, which is economic management and persistent emerging issues, where the focus will shift from the policy instruments to the welfare outcomes that basically those instruments are meant to address. So, employment is perhaps the most direct link between economic growth and human welfare. And when growth creates good jobs that that pays you decent wages, that provide stability, and that develop the skills, it basically transforms the lives. So when the growth fails to create such jobs for the people, what happens is that uh, particularly when the growth is more concentrated in capital intensive sectors, um, or you can say in poorly regulated informal labor markets, much of the potential welfare benefit is lost. So now, for you to understand further, there are few definitions that I believe all the economic students must know. Um, so you must know the full definition and meaning of full employment. What is the zero unemployment? What is the natural rate of unemployment? And obviously, what determines the unemployment? So this chapter, both provides you a descriptive analysis of Pakistan's labor market and an original kind of empirical contribution. The estimations of duration adjusted unemployment rates is the main contribution of this chapter. And I believe that anybody who is interested, in pursuing this topic for the MPhil or PhD level, it is a great topic because um, since we left, work on this topic back in 2018, 19, I haven't seen any one publishing on it. So I believe that there is a research gap, and students interested in PhD and MPhil level, they can take this topic and they can probe out further that what are the current unemployment rates, and not just unemployment rates, but also what is the underemployment for Pakistan and so on. So the estimations of basically the duration adjusted unemployment or rates will give you a more accurate picture of labor market stress than the conventional unemployment statistics that is available on Pakistan Economic Survey or different websites. So if you really want to know that what is the actual you can say the actual unemployment in Pakistan or what's like really going on, then you need to calculate very carefully the unemployment spells and the unemployment rates, the ones that we have done in our chapter. So, because the conventional unemployment rate counts people who were out of the work and they were actively seeking employment. But it misses, people who are working part-time but want to work full-time, which means that they are underemployed. So this means that people who have given up looking for work are the ones who are the discouraged workers, and people who are working in the jobs that do not match their skills or aspirations, they are basically a part of structural underemployment. So duration adjusted rates would weight underemployment by its duration, long term, for example, unemployment, long term unemployment is more economically and psychologically damaging than the short term unemployment, and a measure that accounts for duration provides a more accurate assessment of the labor market distress. So Pakistan's labor market basically uh, Pakistan's labor market basically faces multiple structural challenges. And first, there is a sheer scale of job creation that is, um, that is needed with 2 million of young people entering the labor market every year. And even, strong economic growth may not create enough quality jobs. So, secondly, the quality of available jobs, such as the most new jobs in Pakistan, are in the informal sector, which are offering basically the low wages and no social protection, which means it has poor working conditions as well, and there are limited prospects for skill development and career advancement. Third, the skills mismatch. And again, a very promising topic for the PhD and MPhil students is basically the issue of the skills mismatch, where graduates from Pakistani's universities and colleges often find themselves without job, not because there are no jobs in the market, but because the jobs that exist do not match their qualifications. And the qualifications they have basically acquired do not match the skills that employers actually need. Fourth is the gender barriers, again, a very important barrier. And as noted in chapter 5 as well, the female labor force participation in Pakistan is very low. So the barriers are both social, uh, where norms restricting women's movement and economic activity, and the barriers are structural in nature as well, where the inadequate transport, childcare, and workplace safety adds to the gender barriers. The fifth is basically the regional disparities, where employment conditions vary enormously between urban and rural areas and between Punjab and less developed provinces. So addressing these regional disparities is a part of, the broader inclusive development agenda. So you may ask that if you were advising the government on how to create 2 million additional quality jobs per year, what sector or sectors would you focus on and why? Duration adjusted unemployment rates, as we have discussed before as well. This is basically, if I'll go back to the slide here, duration adjusted rates of unemployment. So basically, the methodological contribution of this chapter is the development of durational adjusted unemployment rates for Pakistan. The methodology involves weighting the unemployment, uh, weighting the unemployment based upon, the um, uh, how can I say? Uh, Basically, the methodology involves, weighting the unemployment account by the duration of unemployment spells, which give a greater weight to those who have been unemployed for longer periods. So the empirical result shows that the duration adjusted unemployment rates are significantly higher than the conventional rates. So this confirms that the long-term unemployment, where people who have been out of the work for months or years, is a significant and economically serious problem in Pakistan. And the long-term unemployment is particularly damaging for several reasons. Workers who are unemployed for extended periods lose their skills, their professional networks, and their employability as well. Because you might have heard a phenomenon known as, hysteresis in labor economics. And hysteresis basically reflects the psychological cost, which is, the loss of worth, family stress, mental health consequences. These are all also, substantial in nature. So addressing the long-term unemployment requires not just, job creation or active labor market policies, trainings, and obviously retraining programs, the job search assistance, the wage subsidies for employers who basically hire the long-term unemployed workers, and social support is needed to prevent these scaring effects of extended joblessness. So, importantly is the regional comparison, such as, the comparison of rural and the urban areas. And when we talk about rural unemployment, it basically presents a very distinctive set of, challenges, because agricultural employment is highly seasonal in nature. Labor demand is concentrated around planting and harvesting seasons, which leaves the rural workers unemployed or underemployed for much of the year. So the disguised unemployment problem, where more people are employed in agriculture than are needed to produce the current output. So such that the withdrawing, you can say, such that withdrawing the labor basically would not reduce the output uh, much significantly in Pakistan's rural areas. So this is a form of surplus labor that represents a potential source of labor supply for industrial development if appropriate jobs could have been created or can be created. So comparatively, Pakistan's rural unemployment and underemployment are higher than in India and Bangladesh, which reflects, the relative stagnation of Pakistan's agriculture sector and the limited development of rural non-farm empowerment in services. Construction and small industry is counted into it, and the rural non-farm economy, which comprises of small trade, handicrafts, transportation, construction, and the services, is the most important source of employment growth in most successful rural development, chapters. So Pakistan's rural non-farm economy is underdeveloped, and it's partly because of the inadequate rural infrastructure, and partly because of limited access to credit for rural small enterprises. You may discuss that what policies have worked to develop the rural non-farm unemployment or employment in other Asian countries, such as the Bangladesh garment industry brought millions of rural women into the formal employment. Could a similar strategy work in Pakistan? This could be, a food for thought for you. Okay, so one of the most the counterintuitive findings of this chapter on Pakistan's labor market data is that the unemployment is highly among the more educated. So the unemployment rate for graduates is higher than for those with only the primary or secondary education, and this reflects that the structural mismatch between the kind of education Pakistan universities provide and the kind of labor that Pakistan's economy demands, basically. So, the graduate unemployment problem is particularly acute in certain fields, such as, in social sciences, in general arts, and general commerce, where, where graduates from these subjects basically face chronic unemployment. Engineering, medical, and technology graduates have better employment prospects, but even here, the quality of education often leaves graduates inadequately prepared for their professional practices. So the emerging issues in employment include basically the impact of automation and AI on manufacturing employment and the growth of Pakistan's IT sector, or you can say IT services sector, is has its own potential to absorb educated youth. Um, uh, and Basically, if you relate it to the impacts of CPAC or Pakistan's employment job creation capacity, may enhance due to CPAC. So the challenge basically still remains of managing the return migration of hundreds and thousands of Pakistanis who are working abroad. And they may return any time due to, any geopolitical crisis and so on, which can add to the labor market pressure. So overseas remittances, which is currently around $30 billion annually, are Pakistan's most important source of foreign exchange as well. So the workers who send basically these remittances are employing their human capital more productively abroad than they could have, done it at their home. This is a powerful sign of Pakistan's failure to create productive employment domestically. You may ask to an exam, you may be asked to design an empirical study that would estimate the economic cost of unemployment and underemployment in Pakistan. And what data would you collect, and what methodology would you use, and what policy implication would you expect to find? So this perhaps can prepare you to do your own research design on the same topic. So yes, now moving on to the last point, which is the emerging issues in employment and underemployment. Automation and technological changes are basically beginning to affect Pakistan's labor market already, and it is threatening the jobs in manufacturing, data entry, banking, and even some professional services as AI and robotics is becoming more cost effective. So the gig economy, for example, and the platform based work are creating new employment opportunities, perhaps for educated young people, but these jobs typically lack employment security, social protection, and the career development pathways of formal employment. So climate change is increasingly affecting the agriculture employment patterns. It is changing the growing seasons, more frequent, the crop failures and extreme weather events such as, driving displacement of agriculture workers with few alternative employment opportunities. A comprehensive labor market reform must basically address the skill development, job creation in higher productivity sectors, female labor force participation, formalization, basically for incentives and social protection of coverage for the workers in informal economy or formal um, employment. So concluding the chapter 9, which is, let's move on to the summary and policy implications. Pakistan's unemployment and underemployment problem is structural in nature, which requires not cyclical demand management but fundamentally reforms in education, um, and skill development and labor market regulation. So addressing the youth unemployment is the most urgent priority, as the large youth creates both in opportunity and you know uh, in skills as well. So this ends your chapter here, chapter 9, and in the next session we will discuss chapter 20. Let's see which chapter we are discussing from the book I have already shared with you.